Today I'm going to do a video on a one tube 3500Z tube tester, I call it, that I kind of rigged up a little bit. This was originally a dual 2-tube 3500Z box, but when I got it, it was in such bad shape. I'm like, I'm not going to try to push too much out of it. So I always wanted a one tuber to use as a tube tester. So we played around with this one, had it a long time, and finally got it up and going. There's the socket for the second tube that's pretty much bypassed, and one 3500Z there. Fan cooling, it was originally chimneys and blower, but the blower went, and I didn't feel like messing with that. It was a pretty rugged box, you know, back in its day. It was a close cousin of the Drake L4B. Not quite the quality of the Drake, but as you can see, pretty heavy duty quality for its day. I believe this amp was made in the 60s, so it's got to be 50 years old. Power supply has been upgraded with snap-in modern capacitors. And I put some new diodes in there. I believe the equalizing resistors all checked good, so I left them in there. That's the plate transformer. And it's turned off and unplugged, so we're gonna turn it over here. And that's the insides of it. It's a few things I don't like, but since it's just a tube tester, I left it alone. This is almost a factory configuration. The big resistor and the second one there go to the high voltage, and those are dropping resistors for the high voltage meter. I don't like using dropping resistors for the high voltage meter, but they also form a dual purpose that they're bleeders. So it's got a lot of bleed on it, and I don't necessarily like a lot of bleed. Modern technology, they don't use bleed like they used to nowadays. And you got the equalizing resistors over for the caps anyway. So you got the equalizing resistors doing some bleed, and you got those dropping resistors from the high voltage, which are providing a whole lot of bleed on this amp. This solid state relay I put in there to turn on the high voltage and off. Before, it used a regular mechanical relay, and a 50-year-old relay just wasn't no good, so I changed that circuit. Also, it had another relay for the low and high, or over here the CWSSB. We bypassed that, so now it's high only. There is no CW or low side, but it is turned on by that relay. These two smaller resistors here are surge resistors. When you turn on the amp, these go through the high voltage and then to the cap board and the diode board, and when you turn it on, these take the surge. There's no bypassing them though in this amp. They're just in line all the time. I think a Pride DX300 has some surge limiting resistors like that. I even saw in a amplifier manual I bought. I think it was the Black Book of Linear Amplifiers. It was talking about those resistors in the Pride, and the guy didn't know what they were for that wrote the book, and I thought that was interesting, because I knew even back then that those were surge limiting resistors, and that's what those two are here. So you got the big dropping bleeders over there, and you got the surge limiting resistors that are in all the time there. I may change it around, get a different kind of surge board where it just limits it for a few cycles or seconds, and then it bypasses those resistors instead of having them in line all the time, soaking up heat and wasting power. I don't like soaking up heat and wasting power, but that's what the bottom of the power supply looked like. And one more time over here, and the way I have that relay, when you turn it on, oh, we're not plugged in. Come on. Where are you? Hold on a second. Need another hand. There we go. So when you turn it on, it's just the RF deck running. It's running the filament and the low voltage, and that's about it. Low voltage lights up the lights. And after it gets warmed up a little bit, I turn on the high voltage. Still get quite a bit of surge with that surge limiting rig. But while that's warming up anyway, I got the little driver on, turned down. I don't like to push stuff hard, and especially just running a single 3500Z. That's 200 watt scale, second scale down. So I'm dead keying 10 watts, swinging about 75. That's what's going to go into it. This does not have a tuned input either. Somebody had taken that out before I got it, so probably all those watts aren't quite making it to the tube anyway. But we're not trying to push it hard. Just using it for a tube tester. We ought to be warmed up. Don't know if you've seen the lights dim when I turned it on. And oh, by the way, I'm going to turn it back off. I got it hooked to this amp meter, watt meter right here. It's pulling 6 amps in standby with all those resistors and bleed. That's a lot just to be standing by, and that's with the high voltage off with just the filament and the low voltage running. It's running 1 amp. So turn it back on, and that's the 6 amp it runs with. It's just in standby with the high voltage on. And lastly, that's going to key it down. And dead keying about 75 with 10 in. Whistling to about 550. And that's with 75 in modulating. Audio. Talking about 450. Hello. And probably talking, I'm probably only putting about 40 watts in it or so. So not too bad for a single 3500Z. And last, we're just gonna put it on peak. Audio. Hitting about 725, 750 peak watts. Hello. Audio. So that's gonna be it for my tube nut cherrying, not pushing it hard, if you can see that. Hello, not a lot of plate current. And that's gonna be it for my tube tester, my single 3500Z tube tester, a modified Raytrack DX2000L amplifier.